Hello guys, Scott Woodward to preview the Canberra Raiders NRL prospects for 2014. And look, when a club loses three players of the ilk of Josh Dugan, Joel Thompson and Blake Ferguson, normally you'd say, wow, that's a big problem. And it looked at one stage they're also going to lose Anthony Milford, but they've luckily managed to hang on to him, and he's certainly one of the gun young kids in World Rugby League, and he's crucial for them. Certainly for 2014, and although he looks like he'll be a Bronco in 2015. But without him this year, we could have pretty safely said that the Raiders wouldn't be playing semi-final football. And while I think they'll still struggle to play semi-final, having Milford in the side gives them a chance. And they have got a reasonably good spine with him in the side, quite a good forward pack, and enormous talent in the back line. And we're going to talk about some of those young guys in a second. Now, while they've lost some good players, the good news for the Raiders is that they've got some excellent young depth coming through. Although their recruiting hasn't been good, they've actually got some really good young kids coming through. Some of the depth includes Jack Wighton and Edrick Lee, two guys I have a massive opinion of, and I think that both those guys will go on and play rep football in years to come. And of course, we're talking about Anthony Milford, who is actually still a kid. But he'll certainly be playing rep football. In fact, he just represented his country with distinction in the World Cup. Now, whether or not he lasts the entire year, I don't know. Clearly, he doesn't want to be in Canberra, but he's under contract and he's going to honour that. He wants to be home with his family in Brisbane, and that's not a good setup that we've got. But his World Cup coach is his assistant coach, and obviously that had a big bearing in the off-season. So for the Raiders' sake, I hope Anthony Milford has a very good season. The good news is, if something does happen to Anthony, they have Reece Robinson who can come in, very experienced player, and he is also a class fullback. And while Milford is world class, he certainly he wouldn't be out of place playing State of Origin. Reece Robinson, in my opinion, I think his stats are outstanding, much better than probably 50% of the fullbacks in the NRL. So that's a good scenario for the Raiders. Let's talk about some of their key positions. I want to talk a little bit about their halfback. That's going to be a very big decision for Ricky Stewart to make. I think he should go with young Mitch Cornish. He's had his hand up for the future number 7 for the Raiders now for about 3 years, since he's been a star in the juniors, and now it's his opportunity. And for him to come on and play halfback, he has all the skills. He's a good talker, good kicker, and a good organiser. It allows Josh McCrone to go in and play 9, and I think he's clearly the club's best decision at 9. They've also got Glen, Buttriss, McIlwrick, and also Baptiste, who they've brought in from the Broncos. So they have a lot of depth in the hooking position, but none of them are as good as Josh McCrone, in my opinion. And I think he works very good with Terry Campese, and I think he'll be very good for Mitch Cornish. So that would be the combination that I would go with. But who knows what Ricky's going to do there. And those guys linking up with Milford, it gives the Raiders a fairly good-looking spine, in my opinion. I want to talk about Terry Campese because he's the captain, and he actually scored more points than any other player in the Daly M's last year for the Raiders. Now, having said that, I thought he went ordinary. I thought he'd come back and he was disappointing. He got through the season. Okay, we'll give him that. But he's such a key focal point for the Raiders. He has to go better than just how he went last year. I thought his defence on the left-hand side was an absolute disgrace. He just fell off players. I don't know if it was technique, I don't know if it was attitude, but players just kept running at him and he just kept falling off them. And when you're playing on that same side there as Jason Croker, who was another poor defender and only a very small guy, that makes the Raiders very vulnerable on that left-hand side. So they need to get that right. They need to get that defence right there. On the other side, I think Jack Wighton will be the other centre. He also needs to improve his defence. I think he's a gun young player, and providing he shows the progress that we all think he will make, he will solve one of their problems. But, you know, he's such a talent. He could also play 6 and he could also play 1. Be interesting to see where Jack Wighton ends up in years to come. I'll just quickly go through the side that I think that they will have for 2014. We've talked about Anthony Milford. Jack Ahearn certainly could play number 1 for the Raiders, and he may very well be their long-term number 1. but he's probably not ready just yet for first grade, even though he's a massive talent. I love the way he plays. He's not your guy like a Ben Barber who will just come in and take charge and run the length of the field, but he's just one of those guys that just pops up everywhere, and I think he's a massive talent, Jack Ahearn, and looking forward very much to see his progress in years to come. We spoke about Reece Robinson. Jason Croker is a goal kicker and a try scorer, but he's a poor defender. Jack Wighton we spoke about, and I spoke about Edrick Lee. Sami Sauiluma is an outstanding young prospect, and I think he will be very much in contention for one of those wing positions. I think he's got full of promise, and I can see him going places. I thought from what I saw of him last year, he looks an absolute class act. We've spoke about Terry Campese and Mitch Cornish. That would be my 6 and 7. I absolutely think it should be the way to go, and I think they should combine with Josh McCrone, and off the bench either Buttriss, McIlwrick or Baptiste, whichever guys goes good in the off-season. That would be my guy on the bench. The forwards sort of named themselves. David Shillington and Brett White and Dane Tilse will fight at the two starting propositions, I would think. One guy that really stood up in the World Cup was Paul Vaughan. I thought he went enormous in the World Cup. He showed some skills that I didn't know he had, and I think based on that he should get the starting position for the Raiders that has now been vacated since Joel Thompson has left the club. And I'm looking forward to seeing the progress of Paul Vaughan. I think he's very promising from what I saw in the World Cup. Josh Papalii made his debut for the Australian Kangaroos, and he went terrific as well, and he'll obviously be one of the starting second rowers and will play very close to 80 minutes each week, as well their lock forward, their workaholic Shaun Fensom. What a wonderful player he is, and he certainly won't be out of place in a State of Origin side. He plays State of Origin type football, the sort of guy you want in your team, a must-have, Shaun Fensom. I don't ever want to be on the Raiders when he's not in their side. The bench, I think one of those guys that I mentioned, Buttriss, McIlwrick or Baptiste, should be on the bench, combined with the forwards who they'll have available, like Joel Edwards, Mark Nicholls, Tom Learoyd-Lahrs, Trevor Thurling, Jake Foster, Sam Mataora, Laggy Setu, who comes in. I have a good opinion of him, and I'd like to see what more he can do. Now, they're the guys that are off the bench. Look, it's not a bad-looking bench, not a sensational bench, but not a bad-looking bench. Basically, the Raiders season is going to come down to how Anthony Milford teams up and what Ricky Stuart does with his 6 and 7, what combination he can get that right with his 6, 7 and 9. That is what really separates a good coach from a bad coach, getting that right. Now, look, just on Ricky Stuart, the Raiders finished 13th last year, and obviously David Furner got sacked. He certainly should have gone a long while ago as far as I'm concerned, but he finally got there. He actually lasted incredibly 109 games. It took the Raiders hierarchy 109 games to work out that David Furner is not a first grade coach. I can't believe it took them that long, and in fact he got quite a few increases and contract extensions during that period, which helps when your brother is the chief executive, I guess. But 109 games for a 43% win record when you've got the talent that the Raiders have had is just a disgraceful performance. Now, they've replaced David Furner with Ricky Stuart. Now, Ricky Stuart has come into the side with a 20.8% win record last year at the Parramatta Eels. 24 games last year for the Parramatta Eels and only 5 wins for Parramatta under Ricky Stuart. And if you look at the two clubs that he had before that, the Cronulla Sharks and the Sydney City Roosters, it's not much better. If you want to go in the last 2 years at the Sharks, Ricky had a 25% record with the Sharks, and the last 2 years at the Roosters, Ricky had a 25% win record there. So if you're looking at the last couple of years for Ricky's last 3 clubs, it's under 25%, and he's left the whole 3 clubs in absolute tatters. And he also left the Australian rugby league team in tatters, and he was very unsuccessful as a State of Origin coach at his last stint. So how he gets these massive contracts is beyond my comprehension. I guess it's not what you know, it's who you know. So good luck to Ricky. I don't know the guy. He's probably a great guy. Good luck to him. But he certainly knows some very influential people. That's all I can say. I think there's a lot of better coaches around than Ricky Stuart. I can only judge guys on what I see and when they come to a club and how they improve players. And I'll bring you back again to the Roosters coach of last year. Every player in that Roosters team improved under Trent Robinson last year, which is a big rap for the coach. Now, when Ricky Stuart goes to a club, I don't see too many players improve. Matter of fact, I see a lot of players go backwards. Now, the Raiders, the good thing about Ricky coming into the Raiders, he's coming in at a low base, where the previous coach that was there is not an ideal first-grade coach. So he won't have to do a lot to improve the situation. But even if he has it the same as it was last year, they still should be very competitive with the list that they've got. It's a very, very talented list. The big red flags that I can see is going to be defence in the back line, particularly in the centres. And I think coaches will be targeting that area, particularly on the left-hand side that I mentioned. But I can see a lot of points in the Raiders. I've got no doubt that they'll be able to score plus 20 points in a lot of games. But whether or not they can defend plus 20 points is going to be very problematical. I'm not a fan of Ricky Stuart as a coach, and I'm not a fan of how the team's progressed and his defensive style and basically the pattern that he's got. I don't know what sort of a relationship he's going to have with his assistant coaches. That remains to be seen. But I think the Raiders have got some problems in years to come. They need to get Terry Campese back to the Terry Campese that we know. I don't know if the game has passed him by. From what I saw last year, I've got some big question marks. I've been told that he's had a wonderful off-season and all of his injuries are gone now, and we may very well see the Terry Campese that we all know and love, because he's certainly a super player and he is the most important player for this team. So if Terry can come back to anywhere near his best form and Milford can have a great season, as we know he's quite capable of doing, and Ricky can get his 7 right and his 9 right, I think the Raiders will go very, very well this year and could be an outside chance to play semi-final football. Any problems whatsoever with any of those guys in the spine, and there's no way they'll be playing semis, and I think there'll be problems. So there it is for me. Good luck if you're a Raiders follower. I think you may have a long season, but you never know. Rugby league is rugby league, and there's a lot of young guys there, and they only need 1 or 2 of them to hold a hand up and be the next young gun superstar, and all things can change. So if you follow them, I hope that's your case. Good luck. Enjoy the season. Cheers.